Oh, good morning once again, race fans, and welcome back to the home of British motorsport here at Silverstone for the second round of the 2016 Blancpain Endurance Series. Second Blancpain event in as many weeks in the UK. We saw the Sprint Series at Brands Hatch on the Grand Prix circuit last week. And it's now time for the free practice session. We saw the test session for the bronze-graded drivers earlier this morning with Max Cobalt in the BMW Team Italia M6 with the quickest time. 10th of a second clear of his rivals. It was Michał Broniszewski at number 11 in the Kessel Racing Ferrari who was second fastest. It's now time for the free practice session. All the cars will be out for this one, including the Pro class cars that we're fighting for overall victory here on the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit in tomorrow's race, a 5.9 kilometre circuit with 18 turns, one of the longest circuits on the Blancpain schedule. Dave Goddard here with you, and I'm delighted to be joined for this session by a legend of British and world motorsport, John Watson. Good morning, John.
Morning, Dave. Well, I mean, legend. Most people would turn around and say more like a leg end than a legend. Nevertheless, how many of those people that might make that derogatory comment have had the privilege of standing on the winner's podium for the British Grand Prix? I don't like to say it myself, but sometimes it is necessary. Anyway, back to the action, and we're now going to see the entire field. And I'm just trying to think how many cars we've got. There's some ridiculous number. 53 cars on track.
Certainly over 50.
Absolutely. So going to be busy. So the Blancpain GT Series Endurance Cup free practice is underway. It is, believe it or not, and coming into the commentary booth, I would say, believe it not, it is warming up. Track temperatures gradually are creeping up into double figures. Was chilly, bright, but very chilly when those bronze test cars went on circuit this morning. They just completed their session some 1 hour ago, and here we are. The real deal begins.
Yes, the pro category cars will be out in this session as well, with some real star names. The winner of the first round at Monza was the Garage 59 McLaren of Shane van Gisbergen, the New Zealander, Côme Ledogar from France, and British driver Rob Bell. They took the overall win at Monza ahead of the HTP Motorsport Mercedes of Dominic Baumann, Jazim Jafar, and Maxi Buk, who was so successful in Blancpain last season. Of course, completing the overall podium at Monza was the Bentley of Andy Soucek, Wolfgang Grape, and Maxime Soule. So the 66 car goes through. We saw that out in the bronze test earlier. That's the Black Pearl Ferrari. Alexander Matschel, Daniel Kielwitz, and Steve Parrow, the drivers of that machine. Daniel Kielwitz, the gold-graded driver. This car could be a contender for the Pro-Am Cup division here this weekend. Finished third in that division, just outside the overall top 10 at the Monza round. A truly wonderful entry of machinery we've got here this weekend. Nearly 60 cars, 11 different manufacturers. We've got Audi, Bentley, Lamborghini, Ferrari, BMW, Jaguar, Nissan and more out on track here at Silverstone. The black Ferrari just making its way through the new loop section. I have to say, John, Silverstone must look totally different to that glorious day in 1981 when you won the British GP for McLaren.
I mean, very much so. It's a work in progress, and a lot of it was introduced as a consequence of serious accidents, fatal accidents, tragically, back in the early 90s. But it's the growth of motorsport in general, and also as a Class A Formula 1 circuit, Grade 1 Formula 1 circuit, the requirement for safety at the racetrack has forced change upon every circuit around the world of what I would call old school or traditional circuits. So it is something that we've had to deal with, or Silverstone's had to deal with over many, many years. Hopefully now into a period of stability where any changes that are being introduced are of a much more minor nature than they may have been in previous seasons. As we look at the Bentley, Andy Soucek, I think it is behind the wheel. It's currently second quickest. He had been showing purples, but in fact it's now the 78. Barwell Motorsport Lamborghini with Phil Keane has gone quickest overall on his, what would be in effect his first flying lap. And as he continues on his way, he's again fastest overall in that first sector on his third flying lap.
Yes, so the number 8 Bentley, Andy Soucek, the former FIA Formula 2 champion, also competed successfully at single-seater level in Super League Formula. He'll share that with Wolfgang Rape and Maxime Soulet, the two Belgians, running a bit wide onto the curb there, though, as he comes through the new loop section going onto the Wellington Straight. This is a 90-minute free practice session. It won't set the grid. We will see qualifying tomorrow morning after pre-qualifying later this afternoon, and the race tomorrow afternoon over the course of 3 hours. Also coming up today, we have the Lamborghini Super Trofeos, the Seat Leon Euro Cup, and the Formula Renault North European Cup, as well as the Bentley, again very wide there, coming out of Luffield through Woodcut. I don't think he'll improve his time here, number 8, Andy Soucek.
Well, he actually, about 10 seconds ago, he dropped from second to third, and on this lap he's jumped back up into second place, but he's now been deposed back down into third by the 28 WRT team and Antonio Garcia. Will Stevens, British driver, of course. It's Garcia behind the wheel right now, and Nico Muller. So literally these cars are going out, doing an installation lap, coming back in, going back out. Tire temperature will be an issue because track temperatures, although they are warming gradually, it's going to take a little bit of time. The Pirelli Endurance tire, which is the tire that is now uniform across both the series, the Sprint series and the Enduro series, is a more durable tire by its description, so it takes a little bit longer. So 84.
Talking of tyres, sorry to cut across you there, John, they won't be using fresh rubber for this free practice session, will they?
No, it's going to be the best of the rest. As somebody up at the circuit of the Lamborghinis goes wrong, and that's up round Village and the Loop. So
yeah, Stefano Constantini, the number 10 Ombra racing car, shared with Giovanni Berton and Matteo Beretta.
Now, for somebody, he lost that actually, or it was off track at the exit of Abbey, which is not somewhere you'd normally expect to see a car, although it's a very quick corner. But again, the issue is, was he caught out by maybe tyres just being a little bit cooler than the driver realised? So 84. Normally, we always refer to this car driven by Maximilian Buch, but in fact, there are 3 drivers in it. Dominic Baumann, who is Buch's regular co-driver, and Jasmine Jafar, the young Malaysian driver, who drives the sister HTP car in Sprint Series. So those 3, strong lineup. Car currently Jafar behind the wheel, and it's the 12th quickest.
That could well be, as it runs wide through Copse, the exit of Copse there, could well be a contender for overall victory, as could the number 1 machine. 7th in the timing list at the moment, with the former Formula 3 star Frederik Vervisch on board. He's sharing that car with the Van Tour brothers, Dries and Laurens Van Tour. Laurens, of course, missed out on last season due to injury. But it's the Audi showing on the timing screens as Vervisch at the wheel at the moment. The number 1 is on a hot lap, and we'll wait and see whether they move up the timesheets this time. Again, another contender for a possible overall victory. The number 25 Audi, the Santaloc racing car, chasing them there as they head past the wing. Of course, not using the wing complex at the moment. We go on board with the number 1 Audi.
And Vervisch using a little bit of the curb, entering into Abbey. But it's there, it's allowable, as long as you don't abuse track limits. And track limits are, as people who listen to our broadcast, Vervisch suddenly backs out of it. Now, we don't know whether that was because he wasn't happy with his entry or exit out of Abbey, or there are other reasons, but certainly he backed out of what was going to be midway through his, let me have a look and see, it would have been his 4th flying lap. Vincent Voss in the WRT garage looking at the timing and scoring. Not working this weekend as he did the weekend before, and there the 42 Ferrari off track.
That's on the entry to Luffield. And I think that same car had an off there in the bronze test this morning with Nils Stevenart at the wheel. So that's its 2nd spin at Luffield of the weekend already. The car shared with Jörg Wiban and Thomas Nicole. And there is the car that won the first round at Monza a few weeks ago. That is the number 58 McLaren, entered by the Garage 59 team, the McLaren 650S GT3. Shane van Gisbergen, Combe Ledogar and Rob Bell, the 3 drivers in that one.
Interesting Who's gone quickest then, David?
Number 74 has gone quickest.
Yes, but what's interesting is that is the Audi that set pole position for the sprint race at Brands Hatch, the race there on the Sunday morning. Quickest of all the Audis. Frank Pereira did a brilliant job. And again, it's that ISR Audi that is suddenly at the top of timing and scoring. 2 minutes 00.884.
Time's already starting to tumble in this session then. The 74 Audi of Frank Pereira is quickest. The number 26 has gone second. That's the Santaloc Audi driven by Christopher Haase, the German, a former Blancpain endurance champion from 2012. And third quickest is the number 89 Mercedes. That's Michael Lyons on board that car. He's going well.
That's why I wanted to point it out. Michael Lyons, more familiar to most viewers as being a Ferrari driver for a number of seasons, now in a Mercedes. Different car. I spoke to Michael back at Monza and said, what are the Ferrari like compared to the Mercedes, or the Mercedes compared to the Ferraris? We watched the McLaren, and just to see where precisely the 58 car is, it's not showing anything particularly. Way down the 35th place, Rob Bell behind the wheel, so they've just been going in and out, in and out. But Michael Lyons did say that the Mercedes is not quite the sort of the go-kart style of driving that the 458, which is the model Ferrari that Michael is more familiar with. And he thought that the Mercedes, on the other hand, is probably the better on a circuit like Silverstone and a longer distance race car, probably the more comfortable of the two cars. But that, with the new AMG GT3 Mercedes-Benz step forward from the previous SLS. But let's go back to Rob Bell coming through Copse. So there is the car currently quickest overall, Frank Pereira, the 74 Audi.
Yes, Pereira ahead of Christopher Haase, who has pulled into the pits in the number 26 Audi. Third quickest is still Lyons in 89. Fourth fastest, we've got number 78, which is Philip Keane in the Barwell Motorsport Lamborghini. And rounding out the top five is number 90, which is the AF Corsa Ferrari with Ezequiel Perez Companc, the longtime Ferrari racer and collector, in third place in that classification. In fifth place, I should say, ahead of the number 99. In sixth place, the Rowe Racing BMW. First of the BMW M6s, Philip Eng, Alexander Sims, and Dirk Werner, the ex-DTM driver, on board that car. There is our pace setter at the moment, with a 2 minutes .884, his quickest lap, just under 4/10 of a second quicker than Christopher Haase in second place. He goes down the Wellington Straight, but a mix of 11 different manufacturers out there at Watty. What's your pick of the cars that's out there?
Well, I think with the balance of performance, and the balance of performance everybody is familiar with. Oh, by the way, just a quick note, car 666. Well, the Barwell Motorsport has been advised track limits at turn 1, that's in Copse. Car 77 and 111 also must respect track limits at Copse. So I'm delighted to see that even at this very early stage, drivers are being advised not to abuse track limits.
It's very easy to run wide at Copse over the curves. We've seen a few drivers warned.
And also there's a benefit from doing so. But just to go back to the cars, I think what's so exciting about the Blancpain GT Endurance and Sprint Series this year is that there's a whole raft of new cars coming in. I mean, notably the new BMW F13, whatever it is, the designation goes on and on. M6 GT3 to give it a tool title. Rowe Racing in particular. We've got the new Mercedes GT3 AMG. We've got the 488 Ferrari. It's the depth in strength of the performance from the front to the back of the grid. There's no poor performance. And there's looking at a 488 as it comes out of the Beckett's complex.
A name we're all familiar with driving that car at the moment, Giancarlo Fisichella, long-time Formula One racer with Jordan, Renault, Benetton, Minardi, Force India, briefly with Ferrari as well. 3 Grand Prix wins in his career, sharing the car with Motoaki Ishikawa, who's graduated from the Ferrari Challenge Championships.
It was that car with Giancarlo Fisichella at Monza he took over for the final stint, and it was just mesmerising to just watch Giancarlo Fisichella, sometimes overlooked, sometimes forgotten. He was a great driver in his primary career as a Formula One driver, but in a GT Ferrari, he really showed that class and style is not something you just have for a season, and he was essentially in that final stint at Monza the quickest car on track.
Yes, he got that car to 10th overall and second in the Pro-Am category, but I have to say, any driver who could handle one of the old Class 1 DTM cars of the mid-1990s deserves huge respect, and that's where Giancarlo started out, don't forget, before making the move into Formula One. He was with Alfa Romeo in the DTM for a time, sharing that car with Motoaki Ishikawa and also Lorenzo Bontempelli here this weekend. We're just looking to see where he is on the timesheet. It's quite a way down in 27th at the moment. It's still the 74 Audi of Frank Pereira who is quickest.
Let's just see what he does when he comes across the start-finish line. It's going to elevate him a little bit up the timing and scoring. So, it's 21st.
So Fisichella, not a massive amount of improvement on that last lap. We have a new car up in the second place, the number 16, which is the car of Jeroen Blekemolen. I think the number 16 Lamborghini. But here's the Oman Racing Team Aston Martin, number 44. That was flying in the bronze test this morning in the hands of Devon Modell, the graduate of the Renault Clio Cup and British GT, alongside Ahmad Al-Hathi and Johnny Adam, the former British GT champion.
Yeah, and Johnny Adam really is going to be not the star driver in the
Whoops.
Well, that's not going to do the Ferrari very much good. That's the Kessel Racing Steve Earle, Bernard Delez and David Pearl, and looking to see who might have been behind
Bernard
the wheel.
Delez in that car, according to the graphic there, the number treble 1 into the gravel. Now, where has that happened on the circuit?
I think it was up at Beckett's. I think he lost it coming into just through the first part of Beckett's.
No, according to the transponder readout, it's on the new loop. The treble 1 has gone off there.
Yes, that's what it looks like, because it's stopped. You're right. It's just on the exit out of the loop before you got to Aintree. A strange place. I mean, he's gone way, way, way off circuit. But let's have a look. Looks.
I don't know how he's got that far off.
I mean,
onto the right of the circuit.
The reference point. Well, I thought that was the Beckett's grandstands, but in fact, it's not. It's just down at.
It's coming out of Farm, isn't it, towards Village?
Very strange. Very strange indeed to see a car off there. Well, in fact, we did see one off a little earlier, one of the Lamborghinis, if you go back to the Team Parker Bentleys.
Oh, there he goes.
Just an unassisted, and yeah, I mean, it went. Tires are cold, of course, still, so the car's going to tend not to slow down, even though there is a fair amount of tarmac there before you get into the gravel trap. So in FP1, and now the marshals, that's not going to be a car moved easily by the marshals. We're going to get outside assistance to get it towed back so as it can return eventually onto the circuit or to somewhere safety or in safety. In the meantime, nothing's changed at the top. It's still Frank Pereira, quickest overall on a 2 minutes, 0.152 of a second. Chris Harris, former road tester, now television presenter in the upcoming Chris Evans show, or is it called that?
Yes, the new Top Gear, as the BBC are calling it, alongside Chris Evans and a few others. Chris Harris, noted motoring journalist and racer. He's competed very successfully in Porsches, also in historic racing. He was at the Goodwood Revival in fantastic form last year, if I remember correctly, in a Jaguar as well.
I've always had a view, and it's probably been seen as somewhat cynical, but people that were conducting road tests, I never thought could drive sheep to market. But I have to say, and I'm delighted to say that Chris Harris has proven that wrong, because he stepped into motor racing both in historic and in contemporary, and illustrating that he is a driver of great ability and skill. And I don't know whether he bothers doing any more writing for magazines, doing road tests. He's probably now fully occupied with his other interests. So he is doing a very good job, and it's great to see. It's another route into motorsport. I mean, coming through as a journalist and then moving up into full-time professional motor racing, no easy task.
Another man who disproved that theory was Dickie Meaden at the Goodwood members meeting at the start of this season, when he dominated one of the touring car races at the wheel of a Lotus Cortina, as we watched the treble 3 Ferrari there. Marco Seifried down in 30th place. Something of a Nürburgring specialist is Marco. The wheel of the Ferrari he's sharing with Rinat Salikov and the experienced Austrian Norbert Siedler. See how he goes on this lap.
I mean, this is the 4.58 they're running, not the 4.88. They ran the 4.88 at Brands Hatch in the sprint series, but in the endurance, it's the naturally aspirated 4.58, a car that they are much more familiar with, and I suspect for an endurance event, probably more comfortable with, because they know this car inside out, even though the car looked a little bit uncertain coming into...
Very uncertain, yes.
Coming into Brooklands and then into Luffield. Well. Yeah, so a little bit sort of got it wrong into Brooklands, and they never really got it quite sorted out into Luffield. So again, using a lot of the exit of Luffield to get a good launch to come through the flat out corner at Woodcote, which I suppose in a GT car you're doing 120 miles an hour by the time you hit it, and accelerating hard all the way through.
So still Frank Pereira quickest. He's currently in the pits, as is the number 16 Lamborghini. It was actually Mirko Bortolotti who set the fastest lap in that car, not, as I said, Jeroen Bleekemolen. Michael Lyons still there in third, ahead of Christopher Haase. The number 99 is fifth. It's Alexander Sims who's set that lap to complete the top 5.
Yeah, and that's, again, the BMW, the road racing BMW, which I've been so impressed with, the M6 GT3, give it a designation F13 as well. But
makes it sound like a fighter plane, doesn't it?
Well, it's a long designation, but it's a very quick car. And it's deceptive. It's a physically large car compared to the previous, the Z4Ms that were used by VDS and other teams in GT racing.
26 Audi, that's one of the Santalok cars. That's the car that's currently in 4th place on the times. Christopher Haase, Mike Parisi and Gregory Gilbert are the crew in that machine. Unplaced in the opening round at and one of the Ferraris.
Well, that's the Ferrari that went off the gravel.
Ah, it is.
So they managed to get the car. They had one of the extraction vehicles towing it clear of the gravel trap. So now limping its way back to the pits. It's at the most distant point from the entrance into the pits here at Woodcote. There's the sister car, the 85 Mercedes, with Barchetta, Indy Donji and Clement Schmidt. Clement Schmidt did a really good job last weekend. There's Indy Donji there. A really good job last weekend at Brands Hatch, and was right at the tail of the top 3. Couldn't quite make it onto the podium, but just illustrated again. Good job by Christian Schmidt. Good job by the whole 85 team.
Yes, it's Luciano Bacchetta, I believe, on board that car at the moment. That was Bacchetta we saw in the pits, I do apologise there. So the 85 car showing on the timing screen. It's actually Indy Donche in that car at the moment, the former German Formula 3 and ADAC Masters driver, down in 17th place.
Yeah, the two cars, 84 of Jasmine Jafar, he's in the pits, 16th, and then Indy Donji in the 85 car, 17th. The thing that I've noticed, David, this year, the closeness of the grid. I mean, at Monza, we had something like the top 34 cars covered by 1.4 seconds. I mean, it's so competitive that how anybody can believe that they've got an opportunity to go out and put it on the front row of the grid when just by misfortune being on the track at the wrong time or not getting the best out of your tyres, you're a car that's a potential race winner starting back in the 10th row of the grid. And I've no doubt that later on this afternoon we'll get a clearer indication of who is where in terms of out-and-out pace. But that doesn't mean when we go into qualifying tomorrow we will have a mirror of what we see this afternoon.
Well, just proving your point at the moment, John, the number 74 car is a second up, thanks to Frank Pereira. But looking at the timing screen, the next 22 cars are covered by 1 second. Absolutely incredible.
Well, I mean, we've been having to deal with this since the first race of the year at Misano. That was a round of the Sprint Cup. And And then Monza with a bigger field, again a similar situation. Then Brands Hatch last weekend. I mean, Brands Hatch, wonderful circuit, but it was like just the M25 for the entire 1 hour for both the sprint, for the sprint and the feature events. Just almost impossible, not entirely, but very difficult indeed. There we see the Nissan, who had a miserable weekend at Brands Hatch. The 23 Nissan, that's the car normally we see Alex Buncombe behind the 22 car, currently driven by Sean Walkinshaw in the pits. It's 29th, just looking to see where 23 is. We haven't got it on...
23 may not have set a representative lap time yet.
Well, it's setting personal bests right now, so I'm assuming that this is its first sort of real attempt at a flying lap, so expect to see the second of the two Nissans.
Yes, this is the all-pro machine, the number 23. This comes in at 40th on the time screen, so that's its first flying lap of the session. The 23 finished 4th at Monza a few weeks ago. At the wheel of that car at the moment is Mitsunori Takaboshi, really rising up the ranks of GT racing at the moment. He's sharing with Alex Buncombe and Lucas Ordonez, another former GT Academy winner.
Yeah, again, this car had a reasonably good run at Monza, but again, it's if you don't have the opportunity to start near the front, you're going to be so far off by the time you get through the first 5 or possibly 10 laps. It then comes down to just really good strategy, good pit stops. So let's watch Takaboshi-san as he makes his way through, down out of Stowe, down the drop into Vale. And it is, the corner's called Vale, it's not called the Vale. It's a bit like, I remember once doing a broadcast and there was a team racing from Lebanon, and we used to say the Lebanon, yes. But it's not. The country's called Lebanon.
Same with the Ukraine or something like that.
Absolutely. So it's Vale. Now we've got that sorted out. So through Abbey into Farm Curve.
Yes, there is the number 23 Nissan Mitsunori Takaboshi, winner of the Bathurst 12 Hours, I believe, my memory serves me rightly, recently for the Nissan team. He, Alex Buncombe and Lucas Ordonez looking to improve on their 4th overall in the opening round at Monza, which was won, of course, by the McLaren of Van Gisbergen, Ledogar and Rob Bell. I remember Rob Bell back in the late 90s in Formula Vauxhall Junior, having a big role at Donington Park. As we watch the Nissan chasing down one of the Lamborghinis through the double right-hander at Luffield. And the power comes on as they go over the curve very slightly there, through Woodcut and up to the end of another lap. Coming up to the half-hour mark, 1 hour, 1 minute to go. Number 69 Lamborghini, the car that he's chasing here. That's the ARC Bratislava team, the team from Slovakia. Miro Konopka, Andrej Lewandowski and Theodor Miskovsky. 2 Poles and a Slovakian in that beautiful yellow Lamborghini.
And Alex Buncombe looking on. There was a small improvement for Takabashi. He's up from 40th to 37th on a 2 minutes 0329. I mean, Nissan are going through a program, no doubt. They're not concerned about whether they are quickest or in the top 10 at this point. We've just got over an hour of the session remaining, an hour and 1 minute. And again, because of the way the tyre usage is permitted, these tyres will not be anywhere near their freshest. It's interesting that I'm just looking down Fisichella, actually, who currently is 12th quickest, has just done fastest sector time in Sector 1. So where that time has come from, hard to tell. Let's see whether it sustains as Lucas Ordonez gets himself ready to get into the 23 Nissan. And just a little bit of chat as we go back to the 99 Row Racing BMW. Alexander Sims, Philip Eng and Maxime Martin, the legend Maxime Martin in a BMW. Wow.
Well, it's down on my entry list as being Dirk Werner in that car, the former DTM driver.
Yes, I think maybe
check that in a moment. Maxime Martin not on the entry list I've got, so wait and see with that. But
no, it's true. I mean, I got it this morning. I did go into the media centre first thing, and that was the first thing I was actually told by the people there is that Maxime Martin will be in that 99 car. Well, so that was one of the little changes that, and you know, every time you pick up an entry list
Something's
you'll probably
changed
find
on it,
there'll
yes.
be a slight adjustment at one point. The Fisichella in the Ferrari, nothing particularly brilliant. In fact, probably well done in that middle sector.
Yeah, he's in traffic towards the end of the lap. He's got another of the Ferraris ahead of him here, so he won't improve. He goes to 13th, so slight improvement, but not following up that brilliant first sector of 36.122 there, causing a little bit of traffic towards the end of the lap. But thank you for the correction on the entry list there.
No, we get these spotter guides, and this is the most recent spotter guide, and it has Maxime Martin. Remember, Maxime Martin is a legend, especially at Spa-Francorchamps. And
yes.
I mean, if you wanted to put your 3-driver lineup into any motor car your choice of, in my case, of course, it'd be a Porsche, it would be Maxime Martin would be one of those people. He is an outstanding GT driver. Back to Giancarlo Fisichella, again with a load of traffic around him, so not really able to do anything when he's a second down in that first sector. On this lap again, just simply, this is going to be everybody's story. I've got a story, mate. It's going to be traffic. It's going to be traffic.
Must respect track limits at turn 1. How many cars have we got now? I'm making about 8 or 9.
Oh, I mean, it's very simple. All you have to have is a line of sensors at the point it is considered to be abuse of the track limit, and every time you click a sensor, a little light flashes up and somebody makes a note of it, and you get notified of it. And if you don't respect the track limits, then you should be expected. Sorry, headmaster, but I'm going to say this. You should then be penalised. However, or whatever the penalty is, please, drivers, imagine you're driving down a racetrack. Let's imagine you're at Monte Carlo and you've got crash barriers or whatever sort of barriers by the side of the racetrack. Please imagine that Silverstone has got that kind of barrier protection around the edge of the circuit. But, if you've got wide open spaces, and many of them grade 1 F1 circuits today, they have to have that. It is human nature to try and take advantage. Lesson over, punishment. What do you say about the punishment? There's been no punishment, just a tongue wagging.
Thank you. So the Fisichella car aborted its lap there and has made its way into the pits, held up by traffic just behind the number 69 Lamborghini there. So thank you, Headmaster, for the brief lecture there. And we'll see how things go. A warning flag has been given to car 57 now for track limits. That's one of the Black Falcon Mercedes. Hubert Haupt, Andreas Simonsen and Adam Christodoulou, the man from Lichfield, local man to me, in the number 57 Black Falcon Mercedes, currently in 28th place with Andreas Simonsen on board. Still Frank Pereira quickest ahead of Mirko Bortolotti, and in third fastest now is the number 50, which is the AF Corsa Ferrari with I think it's Alessandro Pierguidi on board.
So looking at the Bentley, Team Parker Racing, Tom Onslow Cole, well known to British motor racing in Logie, Callum MacLeod. Callum MacLeod, of course, well known for jumping into historic GT Group C cars, amongst others. So a good, strong lineup in that Pro-Am car, particularly with a British driver lineup. Oh, how
nice bit of curve
aggressive there. Does that? I mean, you don't do that to a Bentley Continental. And now he's paying the price. Look at the car looking unstable coming through the exit of club.
Yes, that's actually the number 8 car we were following there. There's the number 24 behind it. The Loxon Group sponsored car. Ian Logie, the head of Loxon Group, sharing with long-time British touring car star Tom Onslow Cole, who's appeared more recently in Rallycross as well. This very attractive, very brutal-looking Bentley, chasing the number 8 Bentley, which is Andy Soucek, Wolfgang Grip and Maxime Soule. Somebody going off there, that's the number 85. Same place as the Ferrari did, that's the Baketa, Doncha and Schmid Mercedes. I think it's Indy Doncha still on board that car. He's got it back together though and keeps it going.
Yeah, I mean, it's strange that the number of cars gone off, whether they've overrun in the exit of Abbey and then can't get the car back for farm, but ordinarily not a part of the racetrack you'd expect to see a car going off track as the two Bentleys peel off into the pit lane. So let's look again. Yeah, that he lost it on the
Exactly
exit.
the same.
Yes, just lost it on the exit. Again, oh, and this time he gets the car pointing in the right direction, stays out of the gravel, so he's able to continue on that sort of access road around the back of the farm curve. So the curve goes to the left, and you got that little brief straight before you the tighter right-hander in Village, and then sort of the Village and Loop complex. It's sort of, you can't ever sort of say there's a 100% correct line, because you can use a variety of lines and have them work to your advantage.
Number 89 Mercedes here. That's one of the ACA ASP cars. This is the car that was going quick in the bronze test this morning in the hands of Daniele Perfetti. He's now sharing with Laurent Casanova and Michael Lyons. This car currently 4th fastest in the classification. It's Casanova that's on board at the moment, the silver graded driver. Graded drivers in the Pro-Am and Amateur classes, it goes bronze, silver, gold and platinum.
Interesting.
Yes.
Car 50. And we've got Alessandro Pierguidi, another Ferrari, up into 3rd place. So it's Audi, quickest, Lamborghini with Bortolotti 2nd, and now Alessandro Pierguidi in the Ferrari, and that is a 488. That's the turbocharged version of the 458, and that is not Fernando Alonso, by the way, standing in the pits. I don't know who it is, but it's not Fernando Alonso. But it's just we've got the Audi, the Lamborghini, Ferrari, and of course now 89, which is in 4th place, which is the Mercedes of the ACA ASP team. So 4 different makes, top 4 positions. Still the time of Frank Pereira set relatively early in the session, unchallenged by anybody. He's still got a 2nd advantage. So my assumption is that the set of tires that Frank Pereira was using were probably the most fresh of anybody else out here so far. And just looking around to see what would be the theoretical best lap. If you take the Fisichella 1st sector, Frank Pereira 2nd sector, and the 3rd sector would be a 2 minutes dead 0.33. So no one yet getting below the 1 or getting into the 1 minute 59s. Track is warming up. Ambient most definitely is warming up. Thank goodness for that.
Yes.
Sun is staying out. Clouds, pretty little clouds above us, but turning into a very, very pleasant morning indeed here at Silverstone.
Couple of best sectors on that lap for Christopher Haase in the number 26 Santalok Audi, but he was all over the curbs all the way through that lap as we go on board with the number 22 Nissan GTR. Sean Walkinshaw at the wheel, heading round towards the wing.
Yeah, coming down out of Stowe, and the run down to Vale, and there's that curb on the inside that we saw the Bentley just a few moments ago being very aggressive. So this looks like, I'm just going to say, is this an outlap for Sean Walkinshaw? We just picked it up midway through. It's hard to judge. We'll only get an idea on the sector times. So 22 not showing
in the top 40 at the moment. We've only got the top 40 on our timing screen.
It was within the top 40 a little earlier. So
will it reappear this time with Sean Walkinshaw? Ah, there he is, 31st place. He is in there.
So let's listen in here. You can hear a little bit of wheel spin just as he came off. The loop goes through Aintree, then coming down, and depending how the wind's blowing, this long straight all the way down into Brooklands Wellington Straight can prove to be pretty much the match for Hangar Straight, which has always been traditionally the quickest part of the racetrack, or sometimes here coming out of Luffield, short shifting into 3rd gear, trying to avoid the wheel spin. So I think this is the beginning of a flying lap for Sean Walkinshaw. The lap he's completing, not representative, so he's just gone out, got that initial lap in. Now let's look and see. So it runs wide, but doesn't go over that sort of green, which is AstroTurf, then up into the Beckett's complex. Down a gear, keeps the car centered to the left, then down another gear, then this quick change of direction left, back to the right, waiting, a little bit of understeer. You can just wait here off the throttle till the front end gave him that confidence to get the bite. Now on to, depending on which way the wind's blowing or whatever, down Hanger Straight, up into Stowe. You can brake quite late, you think. So as we now cut from the Nissan to see who is quickest in first and second sectors, the news is Giancarlo Fisichella might go quickest.
Yes, here he comes, and he's coming down into Luffield. He's done the fastest sector of anybody in the first and second parts of the lap. Can he hold it together? No traffic ahead of the Ferrari this time. Here comes the three-time Grand Prix winner, Giancarlo Fisichella, in the number 53 Ferrari, and he goes fastest by a clear margin, the first man under 2 minutes. 1:59.767, a blistering lap from Giancarlo Fisichella. We're going to hand over down to the pits now for a quick interview with Frank Pereira.
So, Frank, an amazing weekend at Brands Hatch last weekend. You're pretty much at the top of the grid at the moment. Talk us through today how the circuit is for you.
It's good. I like a lot Silverstone. I have this track. I have a good experience, except the Brands Hatch, you know. But I was in pole 2 years ago with the Porsche. So yeah, it's one of my favorite tracks. It's very high-speed corners. The car is pretty good. Audi is really, really competitive, but we know that here is better for us than Monza. But no, we work for the race and we will see.
So two very different circuits. Brands is a very fast-flowing, narrow circuit. Silverstone is completely different. What about track limits? Are you trying to push as much as you can out there?
No, now it's just practice. You know, we just try to see the car for the race. This is the most important, and you know we are in Pro-Am, so it's a different. We know my goal is to make my teammate quick. For sure, it's important to be in front because it's a good attitude. You motivate everybody. It's a positive thing, so we work for that.
Okay, listen, have a really good weekend. I'm sure we'll be talking to you again. Thank you.
Okay.
Good to hear from Frank Pereira there, who's just lost the top of the times in this one. His car down to second place. Fisichella was going quicker on his previous lap, and also out there we've got the one of the Belgian Audi Club Team WRT cars. This is Felipe Albuquerque in the number 3. The number 2 car will be up there as well. Robin Freins is at the wheel of this machine, at one stage a Formula 1 hopeful. And the Belgian Audi Club Team WRT machines, they did not have a good opening to the season at Monza. The number 3 car here with Felipe Albuquerque, former Race of Champions winner, also DTM driver, now with the factory Audi team in the World Endurance Championship. Let's see what he can do here in the number 3. Shares with ex-A1GP driver from Brazil, Sergio Jimenez, and also Rodrigo Baptista, the 2 Brazilians. Audi R8 LMS sounding and looking beautiful here. One of several Belgian Audi Club Team WRT machines in this race. I think they've got 4 cars here this weekend.
Well, Baptista, who was in the car, currently they're in 38th position with Philippe Albuquerque behind the wheel. That would, I believe, change pretty quickly because, well, we've just gone through Philippe Albuquerque's record. His career record is pretty good in my view. Certainly a driver that had enormous potential in his formative years, a single-seater driver, but who's made the adaptation into enclosed cockpits of a variety of nature. So let's look and see where the number 3 Audi is going to end up. It was 38th.
Still 38.
Still 38. Well, maybe that's more a reflection of just how the state of tyres are on that Audi number 3. Interestingly, watch a replay of what's happened. Oh, that's maybe...
that's probably why he got loose coming out of Brooklyn.
Yes, he did indeed. But interesting, Giancarlo Fisichella, who currently is quickest overall, on his following lap in the first sector went even quicker again, but the sectors 2 and 3 failed to conclude any good runs, so he's back into the pits. But that number 53 Ferrari, clearly quick as we look at the 333, the Rinaldi Ferrari of Siegfried Seidler and Salikov.
Here comes one of the McLarens. This is the number 58 machine, the Monza winner, with Rob Bell on board. Currently well down the timesheets in 34th place according to the timing screen. Let's see if the McLaren can improve here. the Shane van Gisbergen, Combe Ledogar, Rob Bell McLaren, the overall winner from the season opener, currently 34th place. It's Van Gisbergen on board according to the timing screen, the New Zealander, the V8 supercar star down under for a number of years now, broadening his international horizon a little. He's got one of the Belgian Audis behind him there as he comes through the loop, puts the foot down as they go onto the Wellington Straight, looking very measured here on this lap. Let's see if the McLaren can improve. He's got a line of cars behind him, Audi and Bentley. I think that's number 30 Bentley in behind him, out of Brooklands, in towards Luffield. Just under 45 minutes of this free practice session still to go. Here comes the number 58 McLaren. What is the time going to be? I don't think there's going to be any great improvements here. He's across the line in a 2:05.506, remains in 34th place.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what we're seeing now is just people going through a program which may involve just cycling all three drivers, first of all, to get that underway and to enable them all to get some sense of where the car is. Then if there's some work that they might want to do to the car, particularly if they've got maybe an oversteer issue, which probably would be tyre related, or an understeer issue, which would probably be tyre related, or a lack of grip, which would probably be tyre related, or whatever, because everybody is running on the tyres that they had primarily from the previous event.
Possibly a problem for the number 7 Bentley here. He was looking down at something in the cockpit. That's Vincent Abriel at the wheel of this Bentley, the former Seat Leon star, sharing this car with Guy Smith, former Le Mans winner, and Stephen Kane. So a problem there.
It may be one of the chicken legs that he carries in the car with him from time to time. He gets hungry and he sort of nibbles on that when we've got a safety car intervention or a full course yellow. So it could be something as simple as that.
Well, I learned something today, I have to say. That's something I've not heard of in GT racing before.
Change of driver in the 53 Ferrari, that's the car Fisichella. So now we're seeing Lorenzo
Bontempelli.
Yes. So that change of driver, so Fisichella's done all the good work and now it's being handed over to some of the AMs in that team.
It's Lorenzo Bontempelli, a bronze graded driver, as is Ishikawa Motoaki, Moto as he's known for short. The Japanese driver, 10th overall at Monza, second in class. They're still quickest, ahead of the number 74 is down to second. That's Frank Pereira's car, and the Bentley of number 7 Vincent Abriel surely coming into the pits.
The trouble is we're seeing on timing and scoring that it's still Stephen Kane, but sometimes the transponders don't get switched over when there's a driver change. So in Stephen Kane's case, if it is him behind the wheel, it'll be 2 chicken legs.
You're making me hungry now, Watty. You're popping out for a KFC for lunch?
Something like that.
Here's the number 666 Lamborghini. This is the Barwell Motorsport car. We saw Mark Poole driving this car earlier. It's now Joe Osborne, the local man to Silverstone, at the wheel of that Lambo. They're currently 25th in the table.
Again, look how aggressive that 666 Ferrari is, coming over the Lamborghini. That's Lamborghini, coming over the curb at Vale. And I don't know why drivers think that that's the quick way to go through Vale, because all you do is unsettle the car. It doesn't like that big shock loading going into the left front spring damper unit, and it slows you down.
Talking of Lamborghinis, the number 78 Barwell Motorsport car in the hands of Marco Mappelli has just gone third quickest overall with a 2 minutes point 3.4. So Marco going well, sharing with Philip Keane, long-time GT racer, and Leo Machitsky, the Russian, completing the trio in that machine. Let's see what the 666 car can do. They're currently down in 25th.
Well, that's the car. Wasn't that the car that was very quick early on, the Philip Keane-driven Lamborghini? I think It was certainly quick in the opening moments or so, with just coming up to 40 minutes remaining. So good to see that Barwell Motorsport, they made a big decision to move from the BMWs that they'd used so successfully in previous seasons to the Lamborghini. And it's, I mean, the Lamborghini Huracan, it's such a great all-round. We've got the Super Trofeo event here supporting this endurance Blancpain GT Series endurance event, and it's almost taken away from all the other manufacturers the customer base for a turnkey race car. And in all aspects of GT racing, that Lamborghini Huracan, great all-round product.
Well, their drivers are certainly spoiled for choice if they have the means to race in GT racing these days. I mean, you've got the Super Trofeo. There's 45 of them here this weekend in their one-make championship. You've also got the Ferrari Challenge, the Trofeo Pirelli, the Maserati Championship as well, the Porsche Super Cup, which you see supporting Grand Prix. It's just wonderful to see so much variety in GT racing these days.
And that's the foundation of what has GT racing has become so successful.
Heading down to the pits for Charlie for another interview. He's got Norbert Siedler with him in the pits.
Okay, so Norbert, Brands Hatch last weekend, different car for this weekend. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it's a different car. Now we are back in the old 458 because we raced with Rinat Salikov in the endurance. And in endurance it was always like this, that we run all the season the old one because the car is from Rinat, and actually that's why we are running the old in the endurance.
Okay, so the endurance race, Brands Hatch, very narrow, twisty. Silverstone, completely different. It's in a lot of track limits as well, so it's really easy to go offline here at Silverstone.
Yes, it's definitely easy. So Brands Hatch, it was not easy to go offline because if you went offline, you were in the grass or in the gravel. For me, I like more Brands Hatch because if you make a mistake, you're out. And here you have a lot of space, a lot of runoff, and yeah, I like more the old circuits.
Okay, question for you. Which is your favourite car, the 488 or the 458? Which would you choose?
I would choose the new one, the 488, because it's really a good car, especially in downforce side. But in Brands, it was actually the first outing for us, so we didn't test before, so it was not so easy. But I think if we can work on the new car, we will be very competitive for the next sprint races.
Well, good luck, have fun.
Thanks.
So good to hear from Norbert Siedler there, swapping from one Ferrari to another this weekend. They're currently 14th quickest.
Yeah, and I think Norbert Siedler really summed up what's taken place between 2015 and now 2016. And the Ferraris, if you want to call it an upgrade, but it's really virtually a brand new model, the 488, with that twin turbocharged V8 Ferrari engine, changes a lot of things about the car. I mean, you put a turbocharged engine into anything, you get a big surge, and of course it all depends on air restrictors. But in terms of, for example, the torque and the way the torque delivery comes when you open up the throttle, and it was notable at Brands Hatch that the 488s, that's something they need to work on, whereas the 458, which is such a well-tried and tested vehicle, is the more easy car to modulate, especially when you're looking to use a throttle control to offset a genuine sort of drop-off in tyre performance, which is what everybody has to deal with. It's easy to be quick in a car when you've got a fresh set of rubber. It's being quick in a car when the tyre is coming to the end of its natural life, when you have to still drag a time out of it. And that's where a car can sometimes, by the engine power, torque delivery, be favourable to you.
So we watch the number 30 Bentley of Chris Harris as the 78 has now moved up into third position, and the number 2 Audi with Stuart Leonard on board has moved up to fourth.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good run by Stuart Leonard. I mean, again, so familiar with British circuits from a British GT perspective. Nevertheless, the time has been established. It's 1 second point, 29 thousandths of a second off the time from Fisichello's Ferrari, which was set somewhat now nearly 20 minutes ago. But nevertheless, encouragement for that number 2 WRT Audi team with Stuart Leonard, Michael Meadows, and of course, you might say mega star within the WRT team, Robin Friens.
A lot of understeer there from one of the Ferraris. This is the treble 8 car of Kessel Racing, driven by Vadim Glitin, the Russian, sharing with Marco Zanatini and the Australian Liam Talbot, who was fairly quick in the bronze test this morning. That Ferrari looks to have perhaps 1 or 2 handling issues, but Vadim Glitin pressing on as best he can. He's got the number 69 Lamborghini behind him.
Yeah, this car this morning in that bronze test did a 2:03.5, and that was Liam Talbot, in fact, behind the wheel when that time was established.
Number 50 Ferrari. This is the Alessandro Pierguidi car that was up as high as third in the times earlier. It's now sixth with Pasin Lathoras, the Thailand-based driver, on board. Michele Rugolo completing their lineup, vastly experienced Ferrari GT racer. You can see now we've got quite a heat haze as the cars go down the Hangar Straight. Welcome sight for spectators, may not be so welcome for the teams and their tyre temperatures. It is Pierguidi, according to the graphic there on board the 50 car.
And that is the 488. And the way you can tell the two apart is that with the turbocharged engine, they've got to get a lot more air into the engine compartment, and the re-sculpting of the architecture around the rear of the door and those air intakes, now that will have a bearing on the rear wing aerodynamics, or the aerodynamics that flew over the rear wing and under the rear wing itself, the wing, I mean by the rear guards. So it isn't just simply a matter of putting in a turbocharged engine. It has a big bearing on a lot of other aero factors around a car. And of course, it is all about trying to get as much aerodynamics as you can within the BOP. And the way that the BOP can work, you can have, for example, if you've got a very aero competitive car, you simply just lift the ride height, and that will reduce the amount of aerodynamic effectiveness or grip, put it in simple terms, that you can generate from your car. But quite a lot of difference between from the door rearwards on the Ferrari from the 458 to that point.
Yes, you can tell by the 488 by the bigger louvers on the haunches of the car just behind the side windows. It's not immediately apparent to the untrained eye. We've got one Ferrari going very slowly into the pits just in front of our commentary box. I think that's the 53 car. Yes, the car that's fastest overall, going very slowly into the pit lane, just in front of our commentary box. Yeah.
Just in the meantime, I was just looking down at timing and scoring. 9th place right now. The 99 BMW, Maxime Martin behind the wheel, had just set a personal best in Sector 1 and done not a bad time in Sector 2 by those around him. So Maxime Martin, if he can complete this lap, and I'm just looking to see whereabouts he is as they are making their way. No, I can't quite see where he's coming through. But Maxime Martin currently in 9th, and the BMW stays 9th on a 2:01.369.
We just saw a shot of the Emil Frey Jaguar G3. There it is, heading down into Stowe's. Beautiful blue machine, driven by Emil's grandson Lorenz Frey, Albert Costa, and Stefan Ortelli, the 1998 Le Mans winner with Porsche, is among the team in this Jaguar, the Emil Frey Jaguar. Very similar to the Rocket Sports cars that were built and raced in the American Le Mans series by Paul Gentilozzi and his Rocket Sports team a few years ago. See how the team get on here. I don't think the car is yet in the top 40, so we're not sure who's on board that machine at the moment.
No, just looking at the way the car was riding the bumps coming up into Abbey, the front of the car, again, this, the balance between suspension and damping and just getting the ability to smooth that out. So if you're not certain, and I would imagine that coming up into Abbey, a quick right-hand corner, you want to have that stability, that confidence, that when you prepare to turn the wheel, you know what you're going to get. And I wouldn't say at the minute, you can see again that sort of chatter on the front of the Jaguar coming into Brooklands. So it's more the high speed that it seems to be affecting, whether it's having a bearing on a lap time. Presently, we're just looking to see if it's into the top 40. Can't see it so far.
No, I don't think it is. So the Jaguar heads through to complete a lap then. Chased by one of the Audis, that's the number 26.
Well, it's actually just made it in to the top 39th.
Yes, 39th place with Albert Costa, the former Formula Renault Euro Cup champion at the wheel. Still quickest is the 53 car ahead of the 74. We saw the 53 car in the pits with a possible problem. The 74 car of Frank Pereira still second quickest, and the 78 Lamborghini in third of Phil Keane.
It's interesting that actually the top 3 places are occupied by Pro-Am cars.
Yes, the quickest of the Pro cars is the number 2, which is the Belgian Audi Club team of Michael Meadows and Robin Freins. And the first of the Amateur Cup cars is way down in 33rd place. That's the Team Parker Bentley of Chris Cooper, Derek Pearce and Chris Harris. Look at another of the Bentleys here heading towards us. That's the 24 Onslow Cole Loggy and Callum McLeod machine, chased by Phil Keane, who's on a hot lap in his Lamborghini. 37.33 in the first sector. So maybe not as hot a lap as he had hoped for here, Philip Keane, the long-time GT and sports car racer, into the left-hander at Vale. Then the right at Club, round towards the Grand Prix pits, past the wing.
Don't think this is the wing. The pits that we're using for this event this weekend is it called the Heritage pits now? I think they've given it a designation rather than saying the old pit. So I think it's actually called the Heritage, whereas I suppose one might say, certainly at the Grand Prix, everything reverts back to where the new pit complex at the wing is based, and that's called the wing, I think.
Yes, that's just the Grand Prix pits and the wing building as we watch Philip Keane heading down the Wellington Straights into Brooklands, attacking, but I don't think he's going to improve on this lap. Third overall and third in Pro-Am. The Pro-Am cars certainly showing the all-pro machines the way in this one. Here comes Philip Keane up to complete his lap. What's the time going to be this time through? 2:03. He remains in third place. We've got a few problems for the number 56 Mercedes, and Charlie can tell us more down in the pits.
Okay, I've got one of the drivers here for the AMG GT that's up on its air jacks at the moment. Tell us what's wrong.
Well, apparently it's a small problem with one of the gaskets, so the mechanic saw a bit of oil at the end of the bronze test, so they're repairing it now. Nothing very bad, so just to make sure everything's going to be fine for the rest of the weekend.
Can you describe what it's like to drive one of these cars in very few words? What's it like?
Incredible, fast, unbelievable. Please do it again.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? And it sounds phenomenal. In the car, how hot are you getting in the car? What's the temperature like inside the car on a fairly warm day like today?
Well, it could be very warm, but honestly today is not that bad because on the other side we have a lot of fresh flow into the cockpit, so it's not that bad honestly.
Okay, cool. And paddles on the steering wheel, so you're changing gear with your hand?
Yeah, well, that's fairly easy nowadays. It was a lot harder years ago, but now it's an easy job.
Good. Well, listen, I hope you get it fixed. The lads are working hard on it now. Good luck for the rest of the weekend. I hope to see you out on the track.
Yeah, thank you.
No worries.
Just on Miguel Torrell's comments about the temperatures, actually at Brands Hatch last weekend, it was really warm and it was very humid as well, so 27 Celsius. And after the main race on Sunday in the evening, I was talking to Ben Schneider just in Parc Fermé, and I said, but look, very comfortable. He said, well, it was, but it was actually really, really warm in the car. Here at Silverstone, it's probably about half the ambient temperature right now, so it will be a lot cooler. And of course, it's not as physically a demanding circuit in the way that Brands is a very busy racetrack. Silverstone, you do get moments where you can sort of sit back and just catch your breath and then prepare for the next part of the corner you're coming up to.
Yes, you were baking at Brands Hatch last weekend. I was baking at Snetterton, so this slightly cooler weather, I think, very welcome for us here in the commentary box this weekend, and possibly for some of the drivers as well, as we watch the number 53 car back out on track with Lorenzo Bontempelli on board, coming up towards the wing. The car still quickest overall, thanks to that blistering lap earlier on from Giancarlo Fisichella. 159.767. He's still 0.385 clear of the number 74 Audi of Frank Pereira. Phil Keane in third place. Then it's the two Belgian Audis. Stuart Leonard has put his in fourth, and it's Laurence Van Tour who's put the number one car up into fifth, ahead of number 16 in sixth place, which is the GRT Grasser Lamborghini. It's Rolf Ineichen, the Swiss driver, who's put that up to 6th.
And in the meantime, just going through timing and scoring, because there's not an awful lot that really is changing. We were focusing on the 14 Jaguar. Albert Costa has managed to get that car all the way up from 40th over a series of laps to 32nd. Now, that might not seem like a lot of progress, but for any team to make progress lap upon lap is certainly worthwhile. As we see, still the fastest overall car we've seen from Giancarlo Fisichella, the last lap of 2:05, what, the best part of 6 seconds away from the time set by Giancarlo Fisichella. And you know, when you're a Ferrari contracted driver, and there are many drivers that are placed in different either AF Corsa cars or whatever, you just wonder, how would you be motivated to be able to go out and drive your heart and soul out, to know that your co-drivers, and not being disrespectful, just are not in the races. So I think Giancarlo Fisichella does a wonderful job in the situation he is in, because he certainly gives that car the performance that it's worthy of.
The AF Corsa team bringing the number 51 car into the garage. This is the Rino Mastronardi, Francisco Guides and Peter Mann car running in the Amateur Cup class, as you can see from the red AM sticker there on the bonnet. AF Corsa certainly have their work cut out this weekend. They've got 5 Ferraris here. There is the menacing grey number 57 Mercedes. That's the Black Falcon car of Christodoulou, Simonsen and Hubert Haupt. It is the man from Staffordshire, Adam Christodoulou, at the wheel at the moment, running very deep into Vale there. You'll get onto the curbs coming through Club, I'm sure.
And again, that's a car that if you were looking for what you might call a sleeper in qualifying in particular, that's got to be one of them, because Hubert Haupt, Andreas Simonsen and Adam Christodoulou are all 3 very strong, capable GT drivers. And you know, I'm just waiting to see when the new AMG GT3 Mercedes-Benz takes a real grip in this endurance championship. It is a car that is just virtually bulletproof, and is a car that is, in relative terms, maybe compared to some of its principal competitors, that little bit easier in an endurance event to drive.
So here comes Adam Christodoulou down into the left-hander at Brooklands. He's AMG at Mercedes. This car certainly is, as you say, John, a sleeper for overall honours, but we could say that about 15, 20 cars in this field.
I mean, I think that there are a lot of sleepers, and every one of them, given the right set of circumstances, first of which is going to come in qualifying, is capable of being in the top half dozen. And if you can get into that top half dozen, you're going to put yourself into a really strong position. Number 1 Audi right now, still currently in 5th place, and Laurent Vanthor indicated on timing and scoring to be behind the wheel.
That's Laurent Vanthor. Let's ride with him around the Silverstone circuit.
So coming out of the loop, runs very wide in the exit, permitted as long as he doesn't put all 4 wheels, then absolutely flat out as he comes through Aintree. One of those corners that you do get a good feel, a good sense of satisfaction. Then all the way down into Brooklands, you can brake quite late because there's a lot of options into Brooklands. So you take a very late apex, try to straighten the car up, and in fact takes a very early apex, goes out wide, then makes the drop back down to make it a 2 apex corner, runs the curve on the exit, then straight lines it as best as possible, flat out again through Woodcut, comes across start finish line. No improvement in time that last lap, 2:01.7, 9/10 of a second slower. Watch the exit here, within acceptable limits.
Yes, no warning flags needed that time. We have had a couple of cars receive black flags for track limits, in fact, in this session. The number 26 Santalok Racing Audi of Gilbert Parisi and Christopher Haase, and the number 29 Conrad Motorsport Lamborghini of Christopher Zerschling, Jules Gounon and Christopher Bluch have also received a black flag for track limits in this session. Number 74 car still second in the times in the pits at the moment. That's the ISR Audi, Philippe Jacquet, Henry Hassed and Frank Pereira. Here is the Nissan, number 23, 4th overall at Monza. We go on board with Alex Buncombe.
So Alex comes down again. There's really sort of funny corner of village. I can never make up my mind whether it's a good corner or just a corner to make up the numbers. Then you come out of the loop again, much the same kind of corner. but it's getting village right, to get loop right, to get then the ability to use the best out of Aintree, because here is a part of the track where if you're slow in those previous 3 corners, you'll then lose further time. So down into Brooklands, just trying to get the nose of the Nissan. And the Nissan GTR, when you look at it now and compare it to the likes of the AMG Mercedes, the GT3, the new BMW M6, even the Bentley, which has been around now in its 3rd season, very much within the spirit of what a GT3 car would be. It's a road car adapted to racing, whereas when you look at the more recent introductories I just mentioned, they really have taken an interpretation, and in the case of the BMW, you open the bonnet and you wonder where is the engine. It is so set so low on the chassis. But Alex Buncombe, really just trying to get the front of the car to follow the steering wheel, runs a little bit wide in the exit of that 3-part corner. Slight hesitation, delay getting onto the throttle as a consequence. And all these things ultimately are about just going through the motions. Put a brand new set of rubber on any of the cars that are in the top 20, and they could end up being in the top 3 or 4.
Yes, that's how close it is in Blancpain Endurance Series. We ride with Alex Buncombe in the Nissan Nismo GTR. Coming up behind a little bit of traffic here as he comes round towards the wing.
So he's got traffic ahead of him, 4 cars actually just further down the road. And the Lamborghini ahead of him, you can see the back of the car, not quite as stable as Lucas Ordóñez in the Nissan team run by Bob Neville Racing. He's feeling the cold, not quite as warm. Well, actually, Lucas, the good news is it's probably colder in Spain right now than it is at Silverstone. It's been pretty awful down in the Côte, Côte du Sol or whatever they call it, the southern part of Spain. Costa. It's been awful. Anyway, number 4 Audi. So Peter Cox, Pierre Keffer and Adrien de Lenner.
Trying to see who's in that car at the moment. It's Adrien de Lenner, the Belgian, at the wheel of that car currently. Sharing with Peter Cox, the vastly experienced former Lamborghini racer, former British touring car driver as well, and Pierre Kaffer, the German, spent many years in Formula 3 before moving on to race Porsches.
The car currently is all the way down in 31st, and I mean, while the times have a relevance to the teams, there's going to be another session later here in the afternoon when one would assume that track conditions will be better. The ambient, we'd like to hope, is going to be a little bit higher, and of course then with maybe even better tyres to use, we'll see better performances overall. As we look down at the 16 Lamborghini, Berko Bertolotti, Jerome Blancpain, what a twos, and Rolf Heineken in that car. Who's in it right now?
It's Blancpain in that car at the moment. They're 6th quickest. Jerome Blancpain, the Dutchman, he's raced pretty much everything over the years. Porsches, sports cars, saloons, single-seaters, you name it. He and his family have raced it, because of course Michael Blancpain, his famous father, back in the 70s as well.
Yes, and of course the Blancpain family, famous, infamous almost in the Netherlands. I mean, if you talk about a Lamborghini being almost the sort of the go-to turnkey GT3 car, you could almost say that Jerome Blancpain is a go-to turnkey GT3 driver.
He is indeed.
Jump into anything, drive it anywhere in the world, and frequently is on that process.
Yes, and the other member of the family, Sebastian Blancpain, Jeroen's brother, who was quite successful in Renault Clios a few years ago. As the Lamborghini comes out of Luffield, sweeps its way through Woodcote. Will he improve this time on 6th position in the standings? No, he's not going to. Just over 15 minutes of this free practice 1 for the Blancpain Endurance Series to go here at Silverstone Circuit. Still quickest is the number 53 Ferrari of Ishikawa Motoaki, Lorenzo Bontempelli, and of course Giancarlo Fisichella, who set the time. But a best first sector so far for the number 28 car. That's going well.
Yes, Will Stevens.
Will Stevens in the other Belgian Audi Club Team WRT car. So watch for Will Stevens, the Manor Motorsports Formula 1 driver. See if he can close up at the top of the times. He's sharing that car with Antonio Garcia, the ex-Formula 3000 racer, and also Nico Muller, the ex-GP3 man.
Just looking at the BMW Team Italia car, Max, Cabolt, Giorgio Roda, Stefano Colombo. So the BMW in 11th place. That's a good performance. They didn't really have a great weekend at Monza, but that will give them encouragement. This BMW F13 M6 GT3 is a very, very impressive bit of engineering. When you get the bonnet off the car and look down and see what they've done, looks to me like silhouettes rather than GT3.
It's like a space frame car.
Well, it's just the engine and everything around the engine. The engine, first of all, is extremely compact, but it's just so beautifully. It's a little bit of Fabergé from Munich.
Fabergé from Munich. What a wonderful turn of phrase, I must say. The big BMW. It's like the Bentley, isn't it? So big and bulky looking in road trim. It doesn't look like a racing car. They get it out there. I mean, this car, the number 15, was fastest in the bronze test with Max Cobalt on board. Now it's Giorgio Roda at the wheel of that car, and they're running in 11th position overall and 5th place in the Pro-Am category. Still topped by our overall leader, the 53 Ferrari. The number 2 Audi is quickest in the Pro category, and in the Amateur Cup, just looking down the timing screen, it's still the number 30 Bentley on top, but down in 36th overall.
Yeah, the BMW comes through and goes on and makes another lap. Their best lap in this session is a 2:01.2 as opposed to a 2:01.5 when they did the bronze test.
Just over 13 minutes of this session to go. Then here is Will Stevens, the number 28 Belgian Audi Club R8. Let's see what he can do here, heading up the Wellington Straight towards Brooklands. How's his lap time looking? Not quite as quick on this lap. He may well have balked this one. I think his second sector was a 59.8. His last lap a 2-minute 3.8. So will we see Will Stevens, who's currently in 16th place, as you can see from the number appearing on the top of the windscreen there on these cars. That tells you what position they're in each session. You can just see it at the top right of the windscreen, top left as we look at it. See what Will Stevens does. He hasn't come into the pits, and his lap this time, well, a 2-minute 10, so he was rather delayed in traffic.
Yeah, I mean, there's two things. One is traffic, and the other is when a driver meets traffic, frequently what he will do is back off and fall back to try and... Is that a very dark-looking sky, or just maybe the way the monitor's giving us the image? Just looked really dark all the way down over Vale, but looking skyward from where we're sitting, it looks actually pretty good. But, you know, again, drivers make judgments around different bits of the racetrack. They see traffic and they say, well, what's the point? Matteo Beretta in the Pro-Am Lamborghini in 10th place, number 47.
No relation, incidentally, to Olivier Beretta, the Chrysler Viper star of a few years ago and former Formula One man. This is the number 10 Lamborghini. We saw it run very wide coming out of club. Matteo Beretta sharing with Stefano Constantini and Giovanni Berton, vastly experienced Italian racer in both single-seaters and GTs, karts as well. It's Beretta doing the job at the moment. The number 10 car is currently...
It's not on timing and scoring
outside the top 40.
Just outside of the minute, so... But personal bests on this particular run, so it may well, and again, just caution required on the exit of Luffield. And that's going to get the attention of the race director. So, well, it's 47th on a 2:03.6.
That shows just how close things are then, with the whole of the top 40 covered by less than 3 seconds at the moment. A bit of side-by-side motoring there between the number 69 Lamborghini and a couple of the Ferraris having their own little dice there coming through the loop section. The number 69, the Slovakian entered Lamborghini. Andrzej Lewandowski, the Polish driver, on board at the moment.
Yeah,
I think that's the treble one going past. Yeah, the car we saw in the gravel earlier.
Yeah, well, the Lamborghini was, I mean, coming through that little sequence of village corner loop, seemed to be meandering beyond all over the corner. That's why the Ferraris got bunched up behind, and maybe not being as aware of quicker cars wanting through as he might have been, but less experienced drivers sometimes, you know, the stress, pressure or whatever, as we look at the 85 Mercedes, which is about to catch up to that group. So 85 Mercedes, looking to see if it's even to the first page, and I don't see it. It's all the way down in 25th.
Yes.
which is somewhat out of position for Luciano Barchetta.
He's behind the Lamborghini here, the number 85 Mercedes, Luciano Barchetta, as they come down towards the hangar straight. I'm sure he'll pull past that garish yellow Lamborghini here down into the daunting right-hander at Stoke Corner, as you mentioned earlier, where Nigel Mansell famously took the lead from Nelson Piquet in the 87 Grand Prix, where Michael Schumacher broke his leg in 1999 on the first lap of the Grand Prix, turning the Formula One season on its head.
If you want to quote records, in the 1975 Grand Prix, I, along with about 8 or 10 other cars between Stowe and Club, hit a tidal wave, literally a tsunami of rain that fell down there, and at about 160 miles an hour on the straight, my car floated for about 300 yards, rotating, and ended up in the catch fence.
I've got some highlights of that race somewhere from ESPN Classic.
Let's get back to what we've got, 85.
We can have a nostalgia trip later.
Another time.
So there is the 85 Mercedes of Luciano Barchetta, sharing this weekend, of course, with Indy Doncia and Clement Schmidt. We saw Indy out on track earlier on. He's got clear of that Lamborghini now. It was causing some trouble. They're currently quite a way down the field. Meantime, Will Stevens is on another hot lap in the Audi. We'll keep an eye on him very shortly. His last lap was a 2-minute 1.7, so looking to move up the timing screen. He's a best of a 2-minute 1.522, that car, as through comes the Mercedes.
I mean, Will Stevens, we're not looking at him right now. We're looking at the Mercedes to see whether it can make further improvement. So it's in 25th position. But Will Stevens, we saw him having a good run first sector, having to back out of it. Traffic. Another slow lap, then another good effort in the second sector, personal best, but again having to be circumspect before he can conclude the lap. But he got within a couple of tenths of what was his best lap. As we look at the 29 Conrad Motorsport Lamborghini, Daniel Kamish, Jules Gugnon and Christopher Zeuchlingen.
Yes, Christopher Zeuschling, the leading Trofeo contender, the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. Jules Gugnon, of course, the son of Jean-Marc Gugnon, and Daniel Kamish, the British Porsche Carrera Cup star, replacing Christopher Brook in that team this weekend. It's a beautifully coloured car, I have to say, the signature colour of Conrad Motorsport, that turquoise blue. And on board that car at the moment it is Jules Gugnon, the French GT star, following his father, who has started a few Grand Prix in the early 90s for Minardi and Simtek, among others. We'll see where the number 29 Lamborghini Huracan slots in here. It's currently 41st on the timing screens. See if it's going to move up. No, it remains 41st with a 2:04.8.
And of course, Jean-Marc Gugnon himself became a very successful GT racer, whether it was GT3 or whatever the designation at that particular time, and also successful in historic racing at a variety of invitation events. He doesn't spare the machinery, does Jean-Marc Gugnon.
It's a very tough racer, the Frenchman, and his son Jules Gugnon proving very rapid as well at the wheel of that Lamborghini, looking to move up the timing screens. So here comes one of the Belgian Audi club cars towards us. That's the number 4 with Peter Cox on board. Behind him, one of the Ferraris. This is the Kaspersky car. The number 49 with Gary Kondakov and Alexander Moiseev, both of them directors of the Kaspersky internet company from Russia. Riccardo Ragazzi sharing the car with them. They're currently 43rd in times. The number 49 car, we're not sure who it is in that car at the moment, running in the Amateur Cup this weekend. Kaspersky, of course, also sponsors of the Ferrari Formula One team. They're in clear traffic here. I think that's the Treble One car behind them, flashing the lights there, of Steve Earle, Bernard Delez and David Perel, the car we saw end up in the gravel in the hands of Delez earlier on. 42.6 there first second. Oh, he's gone wide onto the AstroTurf there.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure whether that was a reaction to the Ferrari coming up quicker or more quickly behind, or maybe just lack of concentration, but whatever it was anyway, it allowed the quicker car to get through. And it's always, in fact, he's going probably slower than he would need to do. A lot of traffic around as we go back to the Bentley, which is just about, I think, to go into the pit box. Yes, it is. 5 minutes of the session remaining 85 completed, and is that a stop-go penalty, or well, that maybe just the sign just saying park.
Stop here.
Yeah, well, that's just there was a stop here, but there was also a stop-go penalty sign, which I think was just being rested at that particular part of the mid-pit lane.
In the pits at Snetterton last week, Ginetta was a little late on the brakes, and that stop sign that the team had out went flying several feet down the pit lane.
Does happen. It does happen.
Luckily, I wasn't standing in the way at the time.
No, I'm just looking to see who's doing what. The number 1 Audi, driven now by Dries van Thor, just had a personal best in Sector 3. That's now been withdrawn. So the number 1 Audi back out on track. Its last lap was within just about half a second of the best time, which is a 5th quickest time that the number 1 WRT Audi has set. So Dries van Thor, 17 years of age. Now what's going on around the front of the Bentley? Why would you be out? Why would the driver, is there something that he is uncomfortable with or suspects has maybe suffered, maybe did he run over something? Again, why would a driver be shaking the left front wheel?
Well, he's clearly not happy with something there. The number 8 Bentley, the driver currently in that car, I think was Andy Soucek when it came into the pits. Yes, there is the Spaniard.
Yeah, I mean, strange to see a driver get out of the car, walk around it, shake a front wheel, as if he thought that there was a wheel bearing or something had, was malfunctioning. But with what we've got just over 3 minutes remaining, that car will be put back into the garage, be up on its axle stands, and the engineers from M Sport will go about the task of preparing it for the run that they're going to have a little bit later in the afternoon.
Well, just a couple of minutes to go then, 3 minutes to go precisely, and it certainly looks as though it's going to be Giancarlo Fisichella who takes the fastest lap of the session in the number 53 AF Corsa Ferrari, ahead of the number 74 Audi with Frank Pereira. It looks like we're heading down to hear from Andy Soucek fairly shortly with Charlie down in the pits. So we can now hand over down to Charlie to hear from Andy Soucek.
Okay, Andy, you've come in the pits. What's wrong with the car? Everyone's sort of checking the front suspension area. Can you talk us through it?
Yeah, we were just betting some new pads and discs, and I started to feel quite a lot of vibration. So I decided to pit. It's not such an important session. It's better to know that the car is doing well and it's fine. So we're going to check everything for the second session to be spot on, and the feeling so far is good.
Okay, so bedding in brakes and pads. How long does that take, and what's the advantage of bedding in brakes and pads?
Well, obviously, at some point of the year, you need to change them because they get quite worn. We use some long endurance pads for the 3 hours race, which we need to bed in before. There is no advantage rather than having some good, meat on the pads actually, and have a better feel on the pedal. Bit stiffer, it's better for the driver as well. You don't need to push the pedal so long. It doesn't go so long where you get that feeling of maybe the car not stopping enough. So a lot of advantages having new brakes and this, but you need to bed them first for around 3 laps.
Okay, good. Well, I hope the car's all sorted, and have a good race tomorrow.
Thank you. Cheers. Thanks.
Just as we thought everything was done and dusted, Patrick Niederhausen in the 101 Lamborghini has suddenly planted himself 6th quickest with a very good lap, 2:00.934. Now, again, one has to think that's been a tire change. Dries van Thor in the Audi number 1, also personal best first sector, waiting to come across start-finish line, needs to improve in a 2:00.867.
Not quite
200ths of a second away from doing so. Again, one wonders whether, in the case of the Lamborghini, in the Attempto Racing, and in WRT, there is the Lamborghini, the 101 car that's suddenly in 6th place. All I can surmise is it's nothing to do with driver skill, it's nothing to do with engineering brilliance, it's simply something called a Pirelli tire.
So there is the 101 car, the Attempto Racing Lamborghini, Fabio Babini and Daniele Zampieri sharing that car. Again, personal bests in the first sector from the number 1 and 101 cars, so keep an eye on those two. No, the Niederhausen car has dropped down now. He's done a 53.1 through the first sector.
And he's backed off as well.
Yes, he's slowing up there, so he's aborted his final lap. We're coming down towards the checkered flag then. We'll be out in a couple of seconds' time as we come to the end of this free practice session. The checkered flag is out on the home straight, and that's the end of free practice session for the Blancpain Endurance Series. Giancarlo Fisichella, the ex-Formula One race winner, bagging the fastest lap by the look of things, unless there is a drastic change in the last couple of laps. I don't think we'll see Dries van Thor put in another fast lap here. His last first sector was a 37. As cars start to come in and take the checkered flag, it certainly looks as though the fastest man in the Amateur Cup class is going to be the treble one of David Perel, Bernard Delez and Steve Earle, Dr. Steve Earle from the USA. I think they'll be the quickest in the Amateur Cup. Pro-Am is the same as overall, while fastest in the Pro division looks like it's going to be the number 2 Belgian Audi Club Team WRT car of Stuart Leonard, British Porsche champion Michael Meadows and of course Robin Freins. Getting to see any changes there. The number 78 Lamborghini takes the checkered flag with Philip Keane on board, sharing with Leo Machitsky and Marco Mappelli. They end up in 3rd. There's the treble one. That car will be quickest in the Amateur Cup division. There it is, Giancarlo Fisichella, Lorenzo Bontempelli and Ishikawa Motoaki, who will be fastest in this session. David Perel, the South African, takes quickest in Amateur Cup, despite his car ending up in the gravel in the hands of Bernard Delez early on in the session. Two Belgian Audis, 4th and 5th, number 2 ahead of number 1. They'll top the Pro ranks, and it's 74. Frank Pereira, Henry Hassed and Philippe Jacquet, who will be 2nd overall. There is our quickest car, number 53, of Ishikawa Motoaki, Lorenzo Bontempelli, and of course, Giancarlo Fisichella. So the majority of the cars have taken the checkered flag and are heading back to the pits after a quick cool-down lap. That's a definite extension of track limits there, but it matters not this time because the checkered flag has already gone out from whoever that is at the wheel. It's Bontempelli at the wheel of the 53 Ferrari. Last couple of cars just coming in. Here's the Slovakian entered Lamborghini, the ARC Bratislava team. Konopka, Lewandowski and Miskovsky heads back into the pits.
You know, some colours suit some cars, and I'll leave it there.
Do you know what that livery reminds me of? The 40 F1 cars of the mid-90s. Anyway, let's have a look at the classification then. Motoaki, Bontempelli and Fisichella the quickest by 0.385 of a second ahead of the Hassed, Jacquet and Pereira Audi, Keane, Machitsky and Mappelli in 3rd. Then the 2 Belgian Audis, and a late effort by Patrick Niederhauser to put his Lamborghini up into 6th ahead of the Blekemolen, Bortolotti, Ineken Lamborghini. The first of the McLarens, quite a way down in that one. McLaren will, I'm sure, come good in qualifying later on and in the race tomorrow afternoon. Rest of the top 24 confirmed then. To see the Bentleys in there in the top placings. Tom Onslow Cole down there in 24th place. Then we've got the other Belgian Audi club car quite a way down at 25th in the hands of Felipe Albuquerque. The Emil Frey Jaguar ending up in 34th place overall. Still ahead of the number 22 Nissan of Simmons, Sarazan and Walkinshaw. Beyond that, we've got Chris Harris's Bentley down in 37th place. The Monza winner, Ledo Garbel and Van Gisbergen, ending up only 39th ahead of Buncombe, Takaboshi and Ordonez in the Nissan. And the final few, the car bringing up the rear was that yellow Lamborghini, the ARC Bratislava team car. Well, Charlie's down there in the pits and he's talking to the fastest man in that session, Giancarlo Fisichella.
Fastest by quite a long way, about 4/10 fastest. That must be a good feeling.
Yeah, no bad. It's been a very good start of the day. Went out with the scrap tires and the car balance wasn't too bad. We made some adjustment. Then I went out with the new tires and it was much better. I did a very clean lap, no traffic, which is very important. The car balance was good. I was comfortable. I went down to the 2 minutes. Not bad. Looking forward for the rest of the weekend.
Yeah, and the weather's looking okay for the UK as well. You're obviously used to better weather than here, and different to Formula One though. But you're pretty experienced with the GT cars now. How are you enjoying Blancpain and driving the Ferrari?
Yeah, I have to say it's a fantastic championship. There are lots of cars, lots of very good drivers, lots of very good team. Yeah, we are 53 cars. There are lots of pro drivers, very good. It's a fantastic championship because there is even a very good BOP, which is quite pretty equal to all of us. This is very important. It's nice, and obviously completely different than a Formula One car. And the other question was.
No, that's fine. That's good. We'll enjoy the rest of it, and I'm sure we'll be speaking to you again throughout the programme tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. See you there.
Top man Giancarlo Fisichella, and a brilliant driver as well. Plenty of action all the way through that session. Curb clipping Bentleys, the number 8 car we saw there. Rapid pace from the Belgian Audis, ending up in 4th and 5th place in the closing stages of that session. A quick spin for the treble 1 Ferrari, but it recovered to set the fastest time in the Amateur Cup division. 26 Audi was well up there in the early stages, slipping to 10th in the closing moments of the session. Lucas Ordonez braving the cold. His Nissan team ended up in the midfield in that session. I'm sure we'll see more rapid pace from them later. Good speed as well from Felipe Albuquerque and the Vantour brothers in the Belgian Audis. Devon Modell impressed again in the Aston Martin on his way to 28th place in that session, sharing with Ahmad Al-Hati. It was Giancarlo Fisichella who topped out the session in the Ferrari.